hello guys, welcome back to John's Workshop, and in this video we're finally going to start the shaper refurb. So this is the Atlas 7B, or Acorn Tools as it is for me, shaper, 7-inch shaper. It's been in the workshop for 3 or 4 months now, got it around sort of Christmas time. So the first point on the board, go back and look at the 2 videos that I've already put out. So there's one just after Christmas time, my new shaper I think I called it, where we dig into a bit of the background on it, and then there's another one around February time, I think beginning of February, called Plans for 2022, something like that, workshop plans, something like that. Go back and have a look at that and we dig into the shaper in a bit more depth. So some of the, as you'll see in those videos, some of the strip down had already been done just in terms of moving it. So in this video we're going to continue with that breakdown of the shaper to get it to a point where I can actually start cosmetically improving it, because it needs a lot of cosmetic improvement. So we're going to be doing that, bit of disassembly, a bit of assessment in various bits as we go, as we take bits apart. We'll be having a look, and we'll be making an assessment of how far back we actually strip this to allow me to do the cosmetic work. So going through some of that, and then a bit around mobility. So what I mean by that is I want to be able to move this thing around while I'm working on it. So while I'm rubbing it down, painting, whatever we need to do, it's a big heavy lump and it's very cumbersome trying to move it around in the workshop or getting it in and out of the workshop. So I'm going to be thinking a little bit about that, and that will probably be the content of this first episode. I think I'll just check the board, make sure I've not missed anything. No, I think we've got all of that. So without any further babbling, we will dig in and see what we find when we start stripping it down. Okay, so since the videos that I pointed out in the introduction have been filmed, if you've gone back and had a look at those, we've gone in through the side door, we've removed the top bronze casting that drives the ram backwards and forwards. We've removed this cover plate on the inside working on the side of the ball gear, and you can really see the thickness of this oil that they've had in here. It's really thick and sticky. And we've removed the big heavy duty bronze arm that drives the ram backwards and forwards, and that was all fairly straightforward, just a few screws, bit of jiggling around and a couple of pins holding all of this in place, so nothing too serious. What I have found on the pin that holds at the bottom, that holds this big arm in place, it's been properly butchered. At some point it's got a nasty horrible gouge up the middle of it, so we'll need to try and either make a new pin or dress that out. We'll try dressing it out first and see what it looks like. If it's not going to affect in any way, then we'll probably put it back in. If we think it's going to affect, because it's actually this middle piece, it doesn't actually bear, there's no bearing surface in the middle there. The bearing surfaces are at each end, so we might get away with that with just a clean up. So what I'll do now is take you to the shaper. You'll see I've got these on, and for very good reason. This is absolutely filthy, so I'm just trying to keep the worst of it off my hands. We'll go to the shaper and we'll get into where the ball gear is and see what comes off next. Okay, I've got some extra light on just so that you can try and see in here, and I'm gonna, unfortunately, not going to be able to see me working in here because the camera and the light are right where I need to be stood in the space between the milling machine and the shaper. I've literally got 18 inches maximum working space in this side. So the next thing we're going to do is attack. There's 2 bars each side here, held on with 3 what look to be countersunk machine screws. So we're going to take those out, take these 2 bars off. That should allow me to take the middle adjuster piece in that adjusts the length of the stroke. So we'll see how that comes apart just shortly when we get in there, but it all works very nicely. There's, it's all quite smooth and easy to adjust. Hopefully you can see the adjustment there. That works really, considering how gummed up this is. It's all very nice and easy to adjust. So I'm going to go in there now. I'll move the camera, we'll get in here, we'll get this unit off. I'll show you that when I've done. Okay, we've taken the two strips off that hold the adjustable piece in place. It's still all fixed. I've also taken out 6 cap head screws that obviously fix the ball gear to whatever's sitting behind the ball gear, and I won't know what that is until I get that far in. The ball gear is still not moving. It's a bit loose now, but obviously there's a connection between the adjuster on the far side of the machine that adjusts this and this actual shaft, this thread itself that sits in here that does the adjustment. So I now need to dig in and understand what holds all that together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the lead nut on this centre piece here, on the centre slideway, which will allow me to then take the centre slideway off completely, and that might let me see what's going on in behind there. So we'll do that next. So we've taken that centre slide out now, and what you can see is the helical gear in the centre that runs off the shaft onto another helical gear that obviously drives that lead screw for the adjustment. So the next thing I need to do is get that off now. I can either take this lead shaft out here, there's 2 nuts at the bottom which will be Imperial AF, 2 AF spanners that I don't have that small that are going to get into that gap. Just got nothing that's going to get in there without butchering those. So I'm going to try and remove this nut on the end of the main shaft, and then hopefully the helical gear will come off this way, which will then allow me to take the whole ball gear hopefully off the end of whatever's on this shaft. So I'll give that a go and see what happens with that. It wasn't even tight. Well, that could have been much more difficult than it was. I hate wearing these things, but hopefully you can see why I'm wearing them. It's absolutely disgusting in here. So we've got the nut and a spring washer, I think, castellated washer. And then the gear, I can't imagine that's going to come off as easy. No. Not at all. I'm presuming that's probably keyed onto the shaft. I wonder whether the ball gear will fetch that off if I try applying some pressure to the back of the ball gear. Light pressure. I'll move the camera out of the way and have a bit of a play and see what happens. I'll bring you back. Okay, we've got the last screw to take out of this now, and that should hopefully enable me to pull the ball gear clear of the mechanism that you can see working here, which is what alters the stroke. So hopefully I'll get this out without dropping it. The ball gear should now come free. It does. There we go. That's got the ball gear unit out. Looks to be in reasonable condition. You know, there's no teeth missing. The slideways look in reasonable condition. So that's good. So we'll get rid of that, put that up on the bench, and then we'll figure out the next job really then is to remove some of this unit. I can now get at that much better to be able to undo nuts and get this gear, this helical gear, off the end of this shaft, which will allow me to pull the shaft out hopefully from the other side. So we're making slow and steady progress. Okay, let's see if we can get these. See if we can get these nuts off one at a time. There we go, that's got our lead nut and lead screw with the helical gear on removed. So I've took the helical gear off the end of the shaft and the key out of the shaft, and that should allow me now to withdraw that shaft out the other side of the machine. So I'll just bring you around there while we do that. So around the other side of the machine now, this is the other end of that shaft. That obviously came off there. So there's our adjustment shaft with the keyway in it. So I'll have a bit of a look at what comes off next and I'll bring you back. Right, I've made an executive decision in terms of the top end of the machine. That is as far as I'm going to go, because these bearings, there's a bearing in here and I think probably another one on the inside, and then there's two bearings in the primary shaft at the back. Those bearings feel really good. They've got some pretty ugly grease in and I can get most of that out with a spray wash rather than trying to strip this. I think trying to strip this any further, I've had a look at trying to move these shafts in and out and around through the bearings. They're not moving particularly well, and I think I'm probably at more risk of damaging these bearings and then having to replace them I really don't see the need, because all of the work from here on in now is cosmetic, and these bearings feel good, so we're going to mask them off to stop any dross getting in inside and outside, and then we're just going to focus on the externals of the machine from a cosmetic perspective, and then we'll clean everything right back up at the end and refit with the bearings that are already in. I think that's the way I'm going to go, for right or for wrong. So next task I've got to do is focusing on the electrical system down here, so we'll get the electrical box taken off and remove all of the bits of the machine that are sitting on it and the bits that are on the floor, and then it's ready then to really start giving it a thorough clean up. So I'll just take you back around the other side and show you the inside. So that's what you can see on the inside. So there's all the muck on the inside of the casting that we can clean off. We'll do that then. That's all greasy, oily muck. It's not paint, dried flaky paint that we need to get rid of. So we'll seal as much of that off as we can. I've just spotted actually the adjusters for the ram for the gib strip. We'll take those out because that's nice and easy, so we can pop those out. Realise you can't see what I'm talking about, apologies. Just move up. So it's these adjusters here, there's 4 of those. We'll get those out and we'll take the gib strip out, which is sat in here. That's not moved since I took the ram off. So we'll take that gib strip off and the adjusters, and then we'll do our best job to mask this off, ready for the start of the removal of all of this flaking paint. So that's what we'll be doing next. So I'll just do the final stripping of electric stuff, and then I'll bring you back when we've decided where we go from there. Okay, so we've got the base back as far as we're going. We've put some cardboard masking the top section to stop all the flaky paint going inside. Now this is still full of swarf and oil and grease and all that good stuff in there. That's going to get cleaned out later on once I've done the worst of the dirty work on the outside. We've plugged up any holes back into the inside. We've dropped the door back on, and on this side, I'll just move the camera and show you this side. So we've masked up our bearing nice and tightly with masking tape, so there's no way any muck or anything's going to get into there, and we've just wrapped some tape round the drive shaft at the bottom. So this is now ready for descaling on the outside, getting all the muck off the top. We're going to start at the top and work down, and it's really interesting to see as I've been going, just by touching this thing, this grey stuff's just dropping off, which is, I knew it was like this, and that's why I've had to get back to this level, just because it just looks awful. 2 colours with it's all flaking off the whole time, so it's just rubbing off with my fingers. Look, so whoever's done that has done a terrible job paintwork wise. So how we're going to attack this is a wire wheel. So I'm going to start just in my cordless drill, just with a small wire wheel that I've got, just to test it and see what it comes up like. If that's okay, we're going to order in a wire wheel that will fit in my angle grinder, and I think that's the right thing to do, and we can do the rest of it with that, including the base, which is going to take some significant work because that's much rougher. I'll just show you down at the base. So you can see the base, cast iron base, solid cast, well not solid cast iron base obviously, but it's about a 10mm wall thickness, I mean heavy cast iron base. We need to move all of this stuff down here, which has been there since almost the day I got the machine in, just after Christmas. So I'm going to get that all off the floor, up on the bench out the way, and then the next job I'm going to do before I really start on the machine in anger is I'm going to make a framework that will sit under this cast iron base with 4 casters on it, so that we can lift the whole thing up, drop it on the framework with the casters on, and that means when I'm scrubbing down, wire wheeling, spraying, painting, whatever we're going to be doing, don't know yet, on the paint front, I can wheel the whole thing out the garage, do it outside, so that I'm not creating a mess in here over all my other machines. So that's the next part of the job. So I will bring you back when we've measured up and we've got some steel cut and we're making a bit of a dolly up for this thing to sit on. Now what I may do is keep that dolly permanently fixed to the machine and also work into it some some four adjustable feet, so that when I get it in the position I want it, I can just jack those feet down, lift it up off the casters, and it's sat on 4 feet. We'll see how that goes. That's an option. So I'll bring you back in a bit when I'm doing that. Right, just before we move this or do anything more, we've had a bit of a test, as I said, with the wire wheel. Seconds, literally seconds, and this is just a steel wire wheel in the DeWalt, and it's just peeling it off. Because it wasn't put on properly. So this is going to be fairly easy to get this back to this green paint, and then we'll need to rough that up, put a key into it, which the wire wheel doesn't feel like it's doing, so we'll need something else. Key that, degrease it, and that'll paint up, no problem at all. I've had a quick go on the base that you can't see, we'll just show you that. So a few seconds on this bit of casting here, and again this has been sprayed with rattle can cellulose by the looks of it, without any primer or any clear coat on top of it. So again, this is just peeling off. It's just peeling off so easy. So this is all going to come up fairly easy. It's just been bodged from a paint job perspective, so yeah, it's handy for me because it will clean up nice and easy. Final thing to show, I've got my floor back for the first time since Christmas and it's now the middle of April. So we've had a tidy up, we've got everything up off the floor, so we're now ready to crack on with the dolly. So we've got our materials cut for the dolly, or the trolley, whatever you want to call it. So we've cut some bits of angle iron and looked at my wheels that were kindly donated by Terry, one of my viewers and subscribers. So these are what are going to go underneath. And what we've done is I've gone for scarf joints rather than mitre joints, and you can see how I've cut the scarf joint into the angle, so that when this all goes together I've got some good edges to weld all of these corners in. So I don't know whether that's a proper scarf joint, but that's certainly the way makes sense to me as a non-welder, non-fabricator to do it. So what I'm going to be doing now is probably closing this episode out, because I think that's probably enough for the first episode, and we'll bring you back in part 2 when we build this dolly for the machine to sit into. And I've got some reinforcement struts as well that are going to go underneath it when it's done. And then we're also going to look at maybe putting some, as I said, some fixed feet or something like that in. Don't know yet. We'll get the main thing built and have a look and have a feel, see how strong we think it is, and then we'll take it from there. So I'll just bring you back to the board and we'll close this first episode out on the shaper, and we'll join you in the next episode, hopefully, when we're sticking all of this together. Well, there we go, guys. That gets us to the end of the first episode on the shaper. I hope that's sparked a bit of interest with you. This is going to be a long running series. It's going to take me several months, if not longer, to get through this, and I want to intersperse this with other projects as well, so that it doesn't become too tedious. So yeah, there's going to be future episodes, but what I shall do when I've finished is I'll put them all together into a playlist probably, and so if anybody's starting from scratch they can follow it through. So yeah, I hope that was a bit interesting, a bit of a look at the shaper under all of the muck that was in it. And yeah, we'll be continuing on with that probably over the course of the next couple of weeks. Might do a couple more follow-on episodes in. As I said just in the last clip there, the next video will probably be the building of the dolly and the positioning of the shaper into that, and checking whether that just falls apart under the weight of the thing or not, or whether it's going to be good enough for me to shuttle it around. So that'll probably be in next week's video, all being well. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to the subscribers and the new subscribers that have come along, and we will catch you all very soon on another video when we'll be making something else.